sharing capability. It's pretty straightforward. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Socas, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The Village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting the sites that are on our agendas and our minutes, and let us know if you have resources you believe should be included here. Thanks.
And they're on the website too.
And they are on the website too. Thank you for that.
Okay, so amendments to the agenda, we're not changing anything to the consent agenda. I move that we adopt the consent agenda. Second. All in favor?
Hi.
Amendments to the business agenda, we're gonna add item number 1, a resolution about a proposed pilot. Item number 2, it's just a discussion about the area speed limit study. Item number 3 is a petition in support of our latest drinking water grant application. And that's it as far as changes to the agenda. I move that we adopt the business agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I know, Alex, you said you had announcements.
Yeah, I have one pretty in-depth announcement, but I just wanted to keep the community abreast on some climate justice issues. So we have, basically, I'll just read what I wrote. Village of New Paltz, like, we've been super clear in our opposition to the Williams pipeline projects. There's been a couple different ones under different names, so I'll just kind of refer to them all as Williams pipeline projects since they were on the table. In 2019, we had signed on many letters of support of the efforts to shut down the Williams company projects in particular, as well as letters of support in passing the New York State CLCPA. That's the climate law that is on the books now. And there's so many other resolutions and sign-on letters that we as a village board and our town board also have signed on to and taken a really clear position against basically adding fossil fuel infrastructure over the years. So in order to achieve the goals set forth by the CLCPA, that's the state climate law, and to really look the climate crisis in the eye, like New York State has to hold steady in our refusal to build out fossil fuel infrastructure. Our state already denied the Williams pipeline permits. That was like a thing that I shared out as a success, a victory in the past, right? The entire state already spoke out. So laws were passed, permits were denied. And then Trump's administration has engaged with New York State Governor Kathy Hochul to roll back the progress that we've made. And the Williams company is back with pretty much the same exact proposals that we already denied on the table. And so I will have some calls to action that would more specifically to share out in the future, very near future, but for now, community members are strongly encouraged to reach out to the governor's office in any ways you know how to urge her to, ditch this dirty fossil fuel habit. You can go back on the village website to find old resolutions that we've passed over the years if you want. You can just do a quick search in the search bar and it will pull up different agendas. So many instances of us speaking out against these projects that again were already denied. And again, I will have specific call to action on my deputy mayor social media available. I've been working with some of the old partners that we've coalitioned with on this. We just couldn't get anything together in time for today. So I want to share this kind of frustrating update and I'll keep on top of it.
Thank you, Matt.
Any other announcements from board colleagues?
As always, I'm going to encourage our neighbors to help our neighbors as much as possible. They always are in need of feminine hygiene products and personal care items. They accept food, and of course, monetary donations are ideal. They help our neighbors pay bills, all kinds of good things. We do need a few people to serve on the Affordable Housing Board. We're currently taking applicants, so if anybody might be interested, please reach out to us. You can send it to bb@villageofnewpaltz.gov. I'm going to finish compiling a complete list of all of the, boards that we have positions open on. If anybody wants to add anything that they're liaising to, that they know off the top of their heads that we need people for, please go for that. And always, the Food Bridge 24/7 here at 25 Plattekill Avenue. And the New Falls Pride Coalition has a fabulous resource guide. If you Google New Falls Pride Coalition, you can have a look at that.
Any other announcements from the board?
Just one, tomorrow is 9/11, it's the 24th anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Towers in the Pentagon. There will be a service at our 9/11 memorial in front of the new firehouse. That begins at 8:30 a.m. Everyone's welcome to attend.
It was a hard day for me, my husband worked.
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping on to public comment. Anyone want to make a public comment about any topic? Nope. We have a public hearing. I move that we open the public hearing on the draft law to change the area speed limit for the from 25 or from 30 to 25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public want to make a comment about this proposal?
Come on up.
Oh,
Just come, state your name.
oh, okay. Just right here?
Perfect.
I think Mike can pick you up.
Oh, okay. Well, my daughter is a vulnerable road user, Stephen O'Shea. And, my daughter's a vulnerable road user, so I think a lot about, her safety as she walks around the village. She's legally blind because she has no peripheral vision at all. So anything that can change and make things safer for her, I'm all in favor of. And I think that's lowering the village speed limit to 25 would make her travels around New Paltz safer, as well as other traffic calming measures that we have talked about. You've advocated for. I just looked up a few things about lowering the speed limit, and it reduces crash severity, creates a more livable environment, increases a pedestrian or cyclist chance of survival in case of a crash. For a pedestrian hit by a motor vehicle, the risk of serious injury or death is nearly double at 30 miles per hour compared to 25. 25 miles per hour allows a greater reaction time. After New York City lowered its citywide speed limit in 2014 from 30 to 25, there was a nearly 40% reduction in injuries from crashes. Research shows that a 1% reduction in average traffic speed can lead to a 6 to 17% reduction in crashes. So even a small change in speed can have a large safety benefit. There's also the livability improvement. Quieter streets create more comfortable and accessible public spaces, which encourage people to walk and bike. So a 10%, this is from National Highway Safety Traffic Administration, 10% reduction in average speed can result in almost 20% fewer injuries from crashes. You're 5 times more likely to be killed when struck by a car going 30 miles per hour compared to 20 miles per hour. London has reduced its speed limit to 20 miles per hour, Boston to 25, New York City to 20. That's it.
I want to thank you, I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us, and we appreciate all of the work you put into this and all of the volunteer time you give to the community in your work, to make sure we have safer streets. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
You know, my old neighbor, Sammy, was the person who, that law in New York City was named after. He died across the street from our house, not too long before we moved up here. And, so unfortunately, we feel particularly close to home as it does for you because of what happened again.
Yeah, I met Amy Coleman, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I used to have lots of conversations with Sammy in the elevator.
Mhm.
Thoroughly.
Well, thanks for telling me about that. Okay, thanks for giving me a chance to speak.
Anyone else might make a comment regarding the proposed speed limit change? So our, come on up, Tom. Our, anticipation is to keep it open through our next meeting in August.
I
State your full.
Of course, Dylan Moscoso, I'm a community member. I've explained a bunch of why this is like necessary, why I think it's worth it. At the end of the day, this is going to result in a lower chance of people getting hit. And if they do get hit, they're less likely to be injured or die. This is not going to solve the issue. It's not even going to stop people from getting hit. But I believe it's a preliminary step that has its own value and value as a step to get Main Street more safe and the village as a whole. I heard a lot of people, not from this board, but in public engagement, kind of thinking that this is a solution looking for a problem. And I found myself kind of agreeing with them and then kind of stepping back. The work that's been done in the village by the board, by the bike head committee, all these people have been pushing for things, one of them being a 25 mile per hour speed limit. I recall an email where someone said, quite frankly, for those of us who are in the later years of our life, we appreciate you advocating on our behalf. And that's what I want to do. I am springy. I can jump out of the way of cars. I've had to in the village, but there are people who are not here anymore, people who physically can't be here, who are for this change. And that's why I've been so abrasive about it. And I've been very grateful for all of the actions that the village board have taken. And that's all.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan. Thanks for being an advocate. Anyone else want to make a public comment?
Is it just about the speed limit?
We had the public comment session earlier, but I saw you came in late.
I think it's Friday at 7, that's why I was a little bit.
You're welcome to come make a public comment
Should we
now.
close this public hearing?
No, because we're keeping it open.
James, sorry, totally heard that.
You can come and make a public comment. On the topic.
Don't we have to go there?
You did.
Yeah, so it gets picked up, yeah.
Okay. You know,
Sorry. Wherever you're more
Wherever you
comfortable with
prefer.
that, rather stand, you can do that.
So
Just stay here.
I'm Elizabeth Lespier, nickname is Susu. Hi to all of you. I think I've seen some of you when I come in. Wanted to mention some things. It looks long, but it's not. Literally like 4 or 5 things. Graffiti on North Front Street, right by Huguenot, where the big stone is. Somebody graffitied on Labor Day weekend, because I drive there every day to go to my mom's. And it says in big letters across the street, no visitor center welcome here. So don't know how long that's gonna be there, don't know who did it, but someone did it, and that's vandalism. Furniture being left at the Walpole River, that little opening, which is right across from, you know, that nice opening,
Yeah.
okay, from the Huguenot apartments. There's like a couch there and a chair. Sometimes they'll leave other things there. If we have a flood, that's gonna go into the river. I don't think that anyone should be allowed to leave any furniture there at all. And it always winds up being there. And I sit by and like, okay. Personal belongings being dumped on properties, like the lawns of some, I live on Works, right? So, I don't know, 2 months ago, somebody left a bunch of stuff right on the, the wall, that stone wall that's right on Works and Main Street. They just either moved out, whatever, and left it there for about 2 weeks. I was afraid to grab it because then I said, maybe someone will say I'm stealing it. So I didn't want to touch the stuff. If it was up to me, I would have dumped it all in a bag and put it to Salvation Army. I mean, they could just go to Salvation Army, right? But they're dumping stuff. Go down Work Street on the very last house. Today, right now, tonight, you can drive by there. There's a bunch of stuff on the lawn,
Yeah, I saw that last night.
but it's been there for days and days, right?
The point is, it's still there.
Yes, and then the issue that you guys are talking about with Main Street driving, I agree 100%, coming down 32, it goes down from 40 to 30, right? Somebody's barreling behind me and she's on my tail and I'm on 30. And I'm like, sweetheart, you're not gonna go any I'm not going any faster, right? And so people are either in a rush, they want to get to work, college students, a lot of them. And this girl did not slow down. I was there and that's what slowed her down. Otherwise, she would have been barreling down 32 toward Main Street. So I agree with you guys. My concern is, when you guys are doing this, renovations, I know that, I forget the street where we did the side road.
North and South Chestnut.
Yeah. But what about Main Street with all of the cracks and the sidewalks being uneven? And, you know, he's talking about seniors. My mom is 83. There's many seniors that I know because she lives right there in the Huguenot senior housing. What's gonna happen with that? I'd like to know, not an answer now, but maybe that's an issue we could bring up.
We lobby the state on a regular basis to
Mhm.
update their roads and sidewalks.
Okay, see, I don't know. That's why I'm here. I'm just talking about it.
Yeah, it's
Because
unintuitive.
that road got done on the side.
So there's actually a pretty significant section of Main Street that's
Mhm.
gonna get updated. The contract was signed and that work is scheduled to start May of 2026.
That sounds good. Okay, so that answered that one.
But I mean, it's a portion, I think it's from.
Right, it's not gonna be all of Main
From
Street at one
about
time.
Grove Street to Mill Rock on the
Right.
south side of Maine. In addition to several other sections
Okay.
in the village.
I think
And
it-
that,
yeah.
believe it or not, that's part of a 10-year project.
Okay, and I imagine that's what it would be, because that's what I'm focusing on because I've been walking around with seniors that have canes and they can't walk with their, walkers. They can't even walk with their little shopping carts in front of them because they'll fall. So that's the one issue. And then I wanted to ask you, is there whose responsibility is it being on Main Street in the village for all of the cigarette butts, all of the garbage, all of the dry spots where there's throw up from the night before or 2 nights before from the college students who are getting drunk? I just wanted to know because it's kind of looking ratchet. You know, it just looks disgusting.
Unfortunately, it's the property owner's responsibility.
Not the tenants who are renting the commercial spaces.
It depends what's.
I'm just curious,
articulated in
because I don't
the
know.
lease.
I don't know what the code is for the, you know, I just don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the lease, because,
Okay,
yeah.
it's looking really ratchet and
So in most
Falls is
cases, they have
beautiful
things.
and, you know, and there's also a lot of the wild weeds growing, but most.
So what
all
happens
of that-
sometimes is like when you have an egregious example like that, you can call the building department and then the building department can contact the property owner
Okay,
and nudge them to do something.
all right, well, that would be all the way from where Starbucks is down to the village. To be honest, that's the honest truth. And then lastly, that I wanted to ask you, and then I'll get out of your hair, is Word Street is a two-way street and it
Yeah.
is narrow as all heck. And it's really a challenge if all of the cars are parked from north to south and I pull out. And then people just have this, they just pick this parking spot. It's not a legal parking spot, but they pick it. In between the neighbors across the street where there's a legal parking spot and there's this little space that they're not really supposed to be there. So it's almost impossible to get out, and then cars are zooming up.
Yeah.
We had to pull over. Sometimes I pulled over on the sidewalk to allow another car to come by. And so I wanted to know, is there some way that we could have a motion for it to be turned into a one-way street from north to south? Because I think it's easier for, you know, tourists and everyone else to go into the parking lot where Rock and Snow is. Much easier. They don't have to loop around.
So it's been discussed and studied a few different times, the challenge with taking streets that are two-way and turning it to one-way. Because the challenge that you have in New Paltz is that like none of this was planned, right? It was planned with a blindfold on. And when you turn streets into one-ways, you often create new complications. And there's also a school of thought that you're actually protecting pedestrians and vehicles by having slower two-way streets.
That's not a
versus-
protection of vehicles, because I've almost hit the cars behind me pulling out backwards because I can't pull out.
But if you have a narrow street where the cars are believe that they can go faster, the argument is that you're actually making the street less safe.
He's not making the argument, he's just sharing and.
Yeah, no, I understand, and as that two-way little street, there's students that barrel up to the street going north. Yeah, it's a two-way, it's very narrow, and the traffic is still coming toward them, and you can see them, you know, and then forget if we have Amazon delivering or FedEx or UPS, you're stuck. You're stuck, or it's blocking your.
I lived on Ritz for years in 2 different apartments, and I'm feeling you so much. And we've had this discussion too,
Yeah,
at the table a couple different times.
I think that should be
I got
something that should be really
years.
considered,
Yeah,
because it's an issue.
definitely. So you might remember, it used to be, people used to go even faster when, that weird triangular thing at the end on Mohunk was like, had another like bypass.
Yeah.
So constantly thinking about how little changes that we can make, definitely, because if people could just slow down when they come up towards Main Street, that would probably make it feel safer on Hertz, but.
If it's a one-way going from north to south, it makes it safer.
So, but in addition to safety, the other argument that would happen, so like you see, we're having a public hearing for a proposed speed limit change. And,
Mhm.
you know, there's a couple of people who are supportive, not a lot
And
of
there you go, there's,
detractors. No, but my point is,
yeah,
if you have something like changing a street from a two-way to one-way, you're gonna have a lot more detractors. And one of the arguments will be, because a favorite topic in this community is congestion and traffic. Right, so like when you eliminate a safety valve, like a two-way street, the argument will be that you'll end up with more Main Street congestion. And again, I'm not some sort of traffic expert. Regaling you with the arguments that would be expressed in opposition of moving from a two-way to a one-way. Like, there's no simple solution. We've done this exercise with various two-way and one-way streets.
well, I'm gonna still put it out there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna push for the one-way, no matter what, because I really feel that it's necessary. I'm living on the street, you know, you've been there.
Yeah,
And so I will continue to push for that.
Good for you.
thank you.
And I think that's it, and thank you so much for your time.
Definitely.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna just jump into the business item number 2, just because you know, we said that we're gonna keep this public hearing open regarding the area speed limit study. So I just included like a detail from the folks that we hired to perform the study. They said that they needed a couple of weeks, but they should definitely have the study done before our 9/24 meeting. So in terms of like next steps, is we need to receive the study, review it. And if we like the suggestions, or, you know, the study would defend moving from 30 to 25, then we can include a resolution that the board could move or adopt and specifically reference that study. So those are the next steps, and, you know, that will be on the September 24th agenda. So public hearing remains open, and then let's just jump into our this is agenda item number 1. This is a resolution opposing the pilot for 151 North Chestnut Street. Phil, do you want to take it?
Sure, we had a meeting here in this room Friday, 4:30. Last week, it was well attended. I think the room was packed and standing room only. There was great engagement. I would say the majority of people were opposed to the pilot for 151 North Chestnut Street.
All except one.
All except one, thank you. So we've had a long history, at least in my term since 2019, of having some deep reservations about certain pilots, and this is one of those. I had a conversation with Nancy, our treasurer, about what it means for the village, and she was not happy with what the number she was reading. So I've written up a resolution opposing the what's on the table now for this particular pilot and offering another pathway perhaps for the developers to pursue. I can essentially read you what that possibility is, and that would begin with the Village of New Paltz. Board of Trustees recognizes the importance of housing in the community and wants to work with 151 North Chestnut Holdings LLC to create a community host agreement. Legally enforceable pre-development contract made between a coalition of community organizations, including the aforementioned entities, which would be the Village of New Paltz, Town of New Paltz, and our school district.
And the county.
And the county, sorry, gotta add that. And whereas CHAs provide a transparent and democratic process for community stakeholders, including residents, to negotiate directly with developers and ensure that new projects provide direct, tangible benefits tailored to community needs. Whereas these negotiated benefits can include, but are not limited to, the provision of permanently affordable housing units, local hiring commitments, living wage requirements, contributions to community service funds, increasing affordable units above local mandates, and investments in neighborhood infrastructure. One of the things that struck me about the projections of that were presented by the developers was their 10-year, 15-year cost benefit analysis. We live in a community where we have a volunteer fire department, and I don't see the possibility of a complete volunteer fire department in the coming 10 years. If that were the case, that would mean we have to hire firefighters, and that certainly would have a great impact on our what we need to raise the taxes. So that was a bit of an insult, in my opinion, but that's essentially what the resolution is saying. But the resolution is saying no to this, but it's on the table now.
I appreciate this, Bill, and I'm gonna start out by thanking you for being a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
Thank you and everyone else volunteer your time and your energy and your everything really to being volunteer firefighters. I appreciate that you picked up on what Tim and I had written and I had read as our comments for the IDA hearing. I did send those in to the IDA in written forms so that they could share it with the people on the board who were not present. I did send it to the paper as well. And yeah, I mean, I gave like a couple of suggestions for possible things that could be in the CHA. I love some of the things you came up with as well. So I think, you know, this is fairly no-brainer. You know, we have collectively and individually, as I said in our last meeting, all spoken many times about our opposition to IDA pilots. You know, I'm really proud of that work that we've always done, both individually and as a board. And yeah, like I said, I think this is pretty much a no-brainer. And I look forward to seeing what the IDA has to say to us following this.
One thing I want to make clear is this isn't a a total dismissal of pilots. There are certain instances where pilots can be very beneficial to.
Municipal pilots are very different, yeah. We gave a great pilot for senior affordable housing.
Right, in Kingston, 2 weeks ago, was it? They just granted a pilot for some affordable housing units for expansion and renovation of them. So that was, to them, a no-brainer. This is what I think Mr. Small.
Right.
So that's more what I think we as a board are looking to achieve,
Yeah,
to speak for.
we did 51 units of affordable senior housing that's gonna be opening up very soon. We gave a municipal pilot for that. That made sense because there was a real benefit to the community, which we do not see for the most part in this pilot or generally in the pilots.
Yeah,
So I was first introduced to, pilots when I served on the town planning board in 2012. And, at that point, what's interesting about the work that we did at that point was that, the seeker process involved an awareness that the applicant was going before the IDA. So in this situation, and I don't actually at all believe that there was any sort of like underhandedness. I think what had happened is that this developer was looking to get approval for their project, and then they probably needed to get new investors. So the seeker process was completed, and then there were new investors involved, and they're like, okay, well, why don't we pursue a pilot? So I don't think there was any sort of like shell game or an attempt to be deceptive. So I think that's, I want to assume the best of everyone, including developers who want to build housing in our community. I think the other thing that is important to note about this is how at the public hearing on Friday, they specifically spoke to the possibility of a utility easement. And I think the community thought that there was some sort of negotiation regarding the utility easement that would fit into a community host agreement, because that phrase was also used at the same time. And I can share publicly that I think where that conversation, why it ended up being mentioned is because we're in the midst of trying to design a loop, basically a connection between the dead end at North Chestnut Street and the dead end for water at Huguenot Street. So our engineer was looking at, well, how would you connect it? And he spoke with the property owner, so Bosse's property is a possibility, and then this property is also a possibility. So it was discussed with this property's engineer that we might ask you for a utility easement to go across your property. The developer then called me the day before the public hearing and mentioned it, and I was like, well, I actually think that utility easement is a neighborly thing to do, and B, it's gonna benefit you. It's not like you're offering us something as a community that, it's the right thing to do. But also the other thing is that, utility easements, if you don't have a cooperating property owner, can just be secured via eminent domain. And like the whole value of, even if we were to pursue eminent domain, it's not that expensive of a proposition. So, and that is exactly what I said to the developer, who I don't think was at all suggesting that this is in lieu, or this is offsetting a tax abatement funded by a pilot. So I think the other really important thing too for our community is that if we're now saying we would like to brainstorm with the developer about a community host agreement, that, we would include officials from the county, the school district, and the town, because we're not negotiating for the village. A pilot would impact all the taxing authorities, it's like a pro rata share that would impact everyone. So, there's lots of stuff that has to be considered for a community host agreement gets moved. And I thought what was interesting is that Hillary Nichols, the executive director for Ulster County IDA, called me this afternoon to relay that I guess it was indicated that the IDA might be voting on this pilot as soon as September 17th. And she said that it was actually moved because the IDA board asked the applicant to do a more in-depth cost benefit analysis. And we spoke about the idea of that cost benefit analysis should probably include things like in-kind contributions that will be included in a community host agreement. So this is one of the reasons why I don't actually think pilots are great, because everything I'm describing would require a ton of work from the elected officials and the representatives from the other taxing authorities. I like when properties are assessed and then they pay their taxes, so we don't have to, you know, have unique one-off arrangements. But it seems like that's what is in store for you know, the next few weeks. So we'll see if you know, what that community host benefit agreement looks like. And see, you know, how our colleagues from the other taxing authorities feel.
I haven't heard anything from the town or the school, have you?
I am reaching out to the school. I was gonna wait to see what we did tonight and email them tomorrow.
And also the county.
And I think another, so for me, like having served on the town board, and one of the reasons, and I asked, having serving on the town planning board prior to you know, through 2014. The reason that our planning board rejected a proposal from a big apartment complex that was pursuing a deviated pilot is not just the economic impacts of a pilot generally, but because there is also a challenge in terms of how the tax cap law is written. So there's a formula that involves the tax levy. So when you even complete a pilot's term, the value of that property does not get added back into the tax levy. So it actually harms the taxing authorities in perpetuity, not just for the length of the pilot. And that was included in the comment that Stana shared, and it was included in our finding statement from 2014, when you know, I took my crash course in pilots and why they are considered harmful for a community. So that's I think another important wrinkle to all of this. And I think what's also interesting is that legislators in Albany have proposed changing the tax cap law to remove that wrinkle. And that legislation has never gone anywhere. And I think that the reason that it has never gone anywhere is because the tax cap law is generally considered successful legislation, and you don't want to open up a Pandora's box, because then they might want to, you know, the tractor might want to change other things. So the rule of thumb is like when something is considered working, you don't touch it. But it's a problem, and it's something that you should also, I think, be mindful of, you know, when we're thinking about the broader implications for a community like ours.
Yeah, so like in the spirit of the comment that you and I wrote, as well as in what we're discussing right now, is the fact that, you know, we are not fans of pilots, but as we said, if we have to use this blunt instrument, then we want to insist on, you know, they're being assessed at a proper market rate. And we want to work on a community host agreement, and we also asked about them possibly considering a shorter term pilot.
It was suggested to me that perhaps we could have all these parties, all these entities who are involved in this, we sit down in a meeting with them and the IDA chair and the developer and have a conversation. I think maybe that might be in order to happen in the next couple of weeks.
I can deal with that if you'd like in my reaching out tomorrow.
Yeah, so maybe we could get together and upstairs and have a conversation with, you know, the school district, the town, ourselves, county representative, the chair and the developer. I think there are two developers.
Well, there's I think a syndicate of investors.
Okay, whoever represented this from.
Would it be maybe better to do that during like a workshop meeting time or something?
I
so
think
we can all
initially, just get the stakeholders together to
Word.
talk about this stuff so that we can work things.
And then you guys can report out, yeah.
But I'm thinking the same way that you're thinking, that when I spoke with one of the investors after the IDA hearing, we spoke about like, because we don't want a situation where anyone is imagining that any of this conversation is taking place offline.
Right,
And it's like, we wanna err on the side of being hyper transparent about
absolutely.
any of these conversations. Because it impacts our community and our taxing
Right.
jurisdictions.
And we could certainly record it. Put it out into-
Okay, do you wanna, so I think your proposed your proposed resolution is fine. It's basically just
Yeah.
the line in the sand that, we care deeply about this topic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
I think it addressed everyone's concerns, like, and ideas and stuff really well, like, includes everything, so.
yeah, there's always more questions.
Yeah.
We can always tweak it more, but I think. we-
I had to like hold myself back from being like, and then, so.
I think for this, it's sufficient. There's a little bit of polish that needs to happen.
Mhm.
That's all, just a couple of quick edits.
So that's your motion to adopt the resolution.
That has been motion.
So, all in favor?
Hi.
Okay, next item is community petition in support of our latest drinking water grant application. So we submitted this grant application to the Environmental Facilities Corp yesterday, so I think in 8 rounds since 2017, we have received 1 award. This is like super competitive grant money to invest in drinking water projects, and many people in New Falls get frustrated on a regular basis by the tint of brown water, and because we have old tuberculated pipes. And the way to address that is to replace those old pipes. So we have cast iron pipes that basically have rust inside of them, and they've been tested many times over. It's for all intents and purposes, and it doesn't make anyone feel comfortable, but it's basically just cosmetic. But I would not recommend relinking it when it has too much tint. But we're in the midst of one project. You see those trucks around town. They're doing the new water main between Sunset and Southside, and it's an outfit from Goshen. They were the contractor that was awarded that project. So any of the new pipes are not cast iron. They're actually ductile iron, and then they have a concrete lining inside. So the idea is that you don't end up with this same problem many decades later. And I think the best way to address this brown water situation is to keep chasing down grant money to replace these pipes, because that project alone is 1.3 miles and it's like a $4 million project. So if we have to pay for that exclusively with ratepayer money, then people's water bills would go up very significantly. So I think a lot of this is political. I think you need to have your supporters in Albany lobbying on our behalf. And we have great relationships with our elected representatives, Senator Michelle Hinchy and Sarah Sharesta. We can encourage them to encourage whoever is making the decisions in terms of the awards. Because you look at the awards every year and it's just like however many numerous applicants, and then 30 or 70 awards are spread out across the state. So we have a lot more luck securing sewer conveyance system upgrades and a lot less success getting new drinking water pipes. So could be a useful tool to just have a petition where just a lot of people sign on and say, I'd love to have like at least 100 names.
I was just gonna say, let's set a goal, yeah,
The goal is at least 100 names by tomorrow at midnight.
all right,
Well, there's a link, yeah, my friend does not like brown water, no one does.
I'll put on Instagram after the meeting.
But if you ever wanna see my museum, I could have brought, I have old. I was gonna share. I can bring my artifacts from past projects where we have the old pipes that show what it looks like when the pipe is filled with tuberculated material. Yeah, it's basically rust. It's a gross word.
Doesn't have anything to do with tuberculosis.
Sounds like it, but it's just rust.
It looks like a club or.
Mhm.
All right, well, I'll share that around.
Share that
right?
around. Okay, so the next item is, we've been working for, so there's no action to take on business agenda item number 3. So the next item is, a proposal to deal with the fact that there's a new 911 center being constructed at the former Lesser property, on the other side of the toll plaza in the town. And, that project will need municipal water, we need to make sure that that happens. I've been working with, the town and county officials, and I'm a big proponent that we do this thing legally and correctly. I don't want to extend water outside of the village unless it's, done legally, and, just because things have been done incorrectly in the past, I think it's very important that we do things correctly moving forward. So I shared this proposal, which I included in our business agenda. And, so I'm trying to, work closely with.
Just, someone had mentioned something about extra water in Highland. I don't know, but that's for that project.
There's no,
I don't have details, all I know that I overheard someone say there was.
yeah, there's no water lines that come from Highland to anywhere near our community. There's no water lines on Route 299. Those are all wells. So I'm gonna, that's just kind of a placeholder, and that, I just want to emphasize that as a town and village, we must do these things correctly, and it's defensible. And so when any of us are gone, whoever is receiving the baton understands that if there's ever a complication, you have paperwork to refer to.
Yeah, and I just wanted to highlight, you include this in your proposal, but just want to put it in bold, this is a required best practice, doing the master meter thing, like, that's it.
Yeah, because we haven't done it historically, it's not.
That doesn't
a
mean.
reason at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask if they're planning to go over there by the thruway, what would actually take the place of the area that is built, the new fire station and the new, that part of it too?
No, not at all. This is basically when you call 911.
You're saying just rescue. So.
No, not rescue.
EMS,
No, all the above. So when you call 911, you speak with dispatchers.
right,
So there's like an army of dispatchers employed by the county who handle emergency calls countywide.
right.
And they're currently in like a totally dilapidated, not good situation. And that's why the county has invested in a new call center.
Okay.
And it's been called a government operations center or,
So that's just emergency and that's for fire, that's for police, that's for
for the calls,
rescue.
for the calls, not for the
That would just be the call center, you're saying?
countywide. So it'll have like updated technology, it'll have, state of the art infrastructure so that.
Yeah, it won't be changing the way our emergency.
Actually, I was at a presentation this morning and it was described to me that they're gonna be taking technology from the 1950s and moving it to 2025.
Nice.
Like, that's how dramatic the improvement will be.
Is that call center, is it just going to be a call center or will there be additional structures there surrounding it, next to it?
I mean, it's a fairly big facility. I think they might have some other like emergency related offices. But I'm not super familiar with everything that's gonna be there.
Okay.
But the fire station, the rescue squad, the police station, all our local stuff is already in another, yeah. This is a county building, and they just need water so that they can, use the bathroom. It's not for housing, so it's not even like a big water user. We just need it to be memorialized correctly. The next item is we have a draft local law for the village to have the option to hire a municipal manager. So I just wanted to put this all on our radar screen, and this is what some communities do, is they use municipal managers to deal with a lot of the administrative day-to-day stuff. So the way our village currently functions, the mayor is the individual who's doing a lot of that administrative day-to-day stuff. So, the idea is that a manager would be an appointed position by the trustees and the mayor. But it's just some communities do this. It's just like a different way to make sure things get done. So it just gives us the option to go down that path if we do. Like, I first started looking at the village of Ellenville has a municipal manager law, and then I looked at the manager law in Westchester to take some of their language, and then I worked on this with our attorney and treasurer just to include the details that you would expect as far as responsibilities and roles.
I interviewed for a municipal manager position in a town in Cali just for funsies to learn more about this. And the more I learn about this concept in other places, I would like us to have that ability. So thanks for, doing this work and putting this on the agenda.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I'm not moving to Cali.
I think you told me about that. Wasn't there a requirement that you had to speak Spanish?
Yeah, and I lied, cause I kind of I used to be able to speak Spanish
But you probably
anyway,
have to be pretty fluent if you're probably dealing with
yeah.
Spanish speaking constituents.
I 100% would not have been the right fit, but I went through the first interview because I was doing research.
So I'd like to move that we put this draft law for consideration by having a public hearing. Do we have enough time if we do it for 9/24?
If you get it in next Wednesday's newspaper, you do.
Okay, so I move that we set a public hearing for 7:00 for this proposed law.
Second.
All in favor? Next item is we have a proposal. We interviewed a few different engineering firms. So what we're looking to do is to augment our engineering muscle. Like, we're super happy with Bernier and Larios. I think the building consultants use them for over 50 years. And they are our water and sewer experts. But we, have been talking with Dennis Larios about the idea of having another firm in our arsenal to help us with, other projects that might be like a skate park or a sidewalk project or a stormwater project. You need engineers for a variety of things, especially dealing with grant awards and just navigating, the regulatory agencies or the grantor agencies. So I move that we go ahead and engage Colliers for this proposal.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
And then the next item is, there's a very small triangle piece of property, and it's 7/10. No, it's less than that. It's less than 1/10. It's less than 1/10 of an acre. And it's at the corner of Henry W. and Church, and it's contiguous with the property at 66 Church Street, and the owner of that property asked if he could buy it. He said he's already maintaining it, mowing the lawn. It's assessed for $800. He offered $1,000. I reached out to a couple of realtors to get an opinion letter from them to defend that $1,000 is acceptable. So one of them gave me a verbal commitment, but I just wanted to have it memorialized in a document. And then I got a note from our DPW superintendent who said that the village has no need for this weird little triangle. And then I also just included as a data point, like in 2021, when we alienated a couple of sections of Memorial Pool Park, the town assessor valued at $2,400 per acre. So this is less than 1/10 of an acre. So from a valuation perspective, using that number, I think it's also pretty defensible. And per state village law, you can simply just vote to sell this property. But I'm gonna wait until we get the realtor opinions, because I don't have those in writing.
Is that the east side or west side?
It's the southeast corner.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. You'll see it, once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, it's a triangle, and like, one of the reasons that he's interested in this property too, is because he has a detached building that he would like to turn into an accessory dwelling unit, and then I think this would give him more pervious surface to hit that
His
target,
current detached barn is about a foot off the property line,
yeah.
Oh,
but if he acquires this little triangle, and we're not even sure how the village actually acquired it. But I'm sure we could go back, and figure it out.
I bet you it has something to do with when, like, Henry W. Du Bois was
I'm certain, yeah.
constructed,
mhm.
So it butts the interstate trail.
yeah, yeah,
I know. I know it did.
Mhm.
okay,
And he's
so,
been mowing and maintaining,
Yeah.
cutting the bushes.
I walked literally over that. Spot.
all right, so no action there, we just have that as a placeholder, and then, we have a amended resolution for the annexation approval for New Paltz Apartment, so we adopted a resolution at our meeting 2 weeks ago, so there's this language that needed to be included, so this is really the, triple check that all the language is exactly what it should be, so I move that we the resolution,
Second.
all in favor?
And again, I just want to say one more time that the number one reason for this, in my mind, is that we're getting, as long as it's in the village, we're getting it being, applicable to our 15% affordable housing law, and that will be anything from our affordable housing. As I believe my colleagues feel similar.
Right, and it's also in village law, we discussed this at the last meeting, that you can't have a property that's contiguous with the village and provide it with water and sewer unless it's annexed into the village. And we're a pro-housing community, we have the certification from New York State, adding housing supply allows us to then be eligible for different grants. And that's a new situation in that New York State has basically encouraged communities to be pro-housing by saying, well, if you're not a pro-housing community and adding, like in our case, because we're upstate, we have to add 1/3 of 1% new housing stock every year to be considered certified new housing. So if it's downstate, it's just a 1% increase to your housing stock. For us, it's 1/3 of 1%. Okay, next item is we have the amendment to the affordable housing law. So this is simply, Mike did some work on it. Do you want to come up and
Yeah, sure.
walk us through?
Sure, so this was based on the conversation you guys had with the Affordable Housing Board. Make 2 changes, relatively minor. The first is to award points for volunteer firefighters. The one thing I will say the village attorney brought up is we had said to do it at 2 points. All the other ones are 1 point.
Okay.
He just said, be prepared for questions.
Well, we discussed that.
Yeah, and I'm just passing on his words, so.
I would also say it's not everything is 2 points, right? There was like a different number of points depending on how long you've lived in the village.
Yeah, but all the other ones that are belonging to an organization are valued at 1 point, and the volunteer fire was valued at 2. So just,
Right, so if you, let's rescue.
so you can either consider changing others, or however you want to do it. The other thing Tim and I noticed looking at it is, the whole point system, the way it was worded was for lease extension. When reality, it's for initial qualification and lease extension.
Right.
Both. So I fixed the wording while I was in there on that. But I think you have the amendment. It's relatively short. If you're ready, you should move it for public hearing next meeting and we can have three.
You know, just out of curiosity, because we really tried to get this right and, you know, ask some of the folks who might have opinion as to why volunteer firefighters were never included. And Rebecca was involved in the early, do you remember at all, like, why weren't volunteer firefighters in the original draft, like as far as getting a point?
That sounds very odd because one of our committee members was a volunteer firefighter and it should have been in there.
So it may just be a weird, may just be a weird.
Oversight. It's just about everything else. Rescue squad, police, default school,
Anything emergency
Yeah, yeah.
services.
but there were nothing there for
And of course,
firefighters.
you know, school employees of the district and also BOCES employees, like,
Active veterans.
yes. I believe that was a major oversight. And, one interesting thing that I was thinking the last time I was here, the, person, who was a firefighter on the committee was the secretary, Dennis. And I always think of him when I see our village seal, because he was actually a part of the competition in the 70s.
Oh.
Yes, and you may have seen that in my home. But he made me, a really beautiful, copy of the original competition with all the different people who, entered their version of the village seal into the competition.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, Dennis, and he was the library, he was the secretary for the fire department and also the librarian at the college. But yeah, so whenever I see our seal, that was actually by Susan Brown. And her daughter is a town employee.
Cool.
Yeah.
Something just popped in my head, you might want to consider, and I'll just throw it out, we don't even have to talk about it tonight, is maybe you do the ones that are volunteer positions at 2 points.
Yeah.
And the ones that are
What
employment,
are the other volunteer positions?
the rescue squad is volunteer.
There's no, there's
It's-
there's very few volunteer rescue
Okay,
squads.
they're paid, I didn't know.
They're mostly paid, I think.
Okay.
I actually had this
Yeah.
conversation recently, so there's a handful of volunteers and they're probably people that had been doing it
Okay,
for years and they just continue to volunteer. But by and large, most people involved in rescue are getting paid.
okay, well, if that's the
They're not
case.
getting paid a lot.
No, but they're getting paid. Yeah, but they are being paid, so. Anyway, that may be something you may wanna consider is looking at those categories, and anything that's volunteer, make it 2, anything that's not volunteer, leave it at 1.
I move that we set a public hearing for 9/24 to change the law, so it's 2 points for a volunteer firefighter. All bigger, right?
Hi.
All right, Mike. let's-
Okay. So, as I promised, I'm gonna bring it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Here. There we are.
Beautiful.
Zoning. I will walk you through this. We can go as quickly or as slowly as you'd like. Stop me if you've got questions. So the first thing is there is now a glossary with linkable sections. So if you click on the link, it takes you to that section available. Needs a little tweaking to make sure they're all accurate, but that's the fine tuning of this. The first part of the code is relatively the same, the general provisions. I did add in some things that are sort of standard boilerplate language. I'm not quite sure why your code didn't have it. Interpretation, conflict, jurisdiction. Will hasn't looked at any of this yet, but I'll eventually be getting into.
And for the public, Will is our attorney.
Yep, and the planning board and the ZBA have both been given access to it. You have to do official referral to the planning board. The ZBA, it's just for informational purposes. And Emily, the planning board attorney, is also taking a look at it.
Fantastic.
And we haven't scheduled it yet, but they're gonna do at least one, if not two special meetings to work on this.
Great.
Scope and purpose. The same, no changes. Word usage and definitions, basically saying if it's not defined, where you go to look it up, there usually should be a standard. Also, you know, words that mean the same thing, it sort of covers generalizations like that. Again, fairly boilerplate. Finally, the new F. Anything, any definition that it is a use or a use category or an accessory use will now have that next to the definition. So, and we now have, you had many uses that weren't defined. Every use that will be in your use table is now defined in the code. As you get into definitions, you'll see there's a significant amount of red. I'm a firm believer of more is better. Because if you're sued, the first thing a judge is gonna do is look at your code and say, how do you define it? Blue are ones that were in there that I've updated to a more modern definition. I'm not gonna go through every definition. I'll let you guys look at that. I did leave the adult use cannabis, but I did do what you guys asked is for distribution, it's treated the same as all other retail. It still will be its own category, but it will be the same classification. And then for, if we ever did have a facility where consumption on site, that would be treated the same as a bar.
Great.
So equal across the board. Added some agricultural uses. We don't have a lot of agriculture in the village, but we do have a few parcels. You never know. And as annexation happens. Agricultural tourism, big topic that nobody really heard of 20 years ago. Most of the agriculture is non-animal. If somebody wanted to do animal farming, it would have to be on a plot that is in the Ulster, the New York State Ag District property. So you're not gonna get the hobby farms.
Right, but we're not talking like two pet goats.
No. This would be a larger farm. You do have two properties actually that are in the agricultural district over along the Wallkill. Defined what altering a use is. We didn't have that. Dealt with animals, customary household pets. Believe it or not, animals exotic and animals native wild, that follow state statutes. Defined farm animal. Animal boarding is a topic you did not have in your categories. Whether it's a vet or if somebody's just gonna, you know, it's 5 or more animals. So. Animal husbandry is the official term for household pets. Artisanal use, we talk a lot about it throughout our code. You didn't have a definition for it. Thank you, AI, for that definition. So, like, you didn't have a definition for bank. It sounds silly, but we didn't. So bakeries, I've broken them between commercial and retail, two very different, obviously. Your code references bar or tavern, but your definition was only bar, so now it says both. Beauty salon, another outdated term. Beauty services is kind of the new term. That would cover tanning salons, nails, barber shops, that kind of thing.
What about, what's that, like that dermatology stuff?
We do have low impact, medical practices proposed, that would be like, your chiropractor, that kind of thing, so that would fit under that category, at least in my opinion. Or are you talking,
I know that there's.
you're talking treatment?
Yeah, but it's,
Yeah.
it's like the Botox, like that whole.
Oh, well, it probably depend on if it's a doctor or not. If it's not a doctor, it would probably fall under the beauty services.
No.
I think they often are doctors.
Yeah.
right?
Yes, what will usually happen is it will be a doctor or nurse practitioner, and there will be possibly other people in the office with the
Right.
nurses.
So we have medical offices and low impact medical offices, your single dentist.
Is that what you would consider a low impact medical?
My initial response is yes, but I'm gonna look at it a little bit better.
If you think we need another definition, let me know. We can always add more.
Or just put the description in?
Yeah,
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 In your-
yeah,
yeah. I'll defer to you working in the.
because I'm a nurse.
Yeah, you may be able to help me with it a little bit.
Sure, I'll help you with that.
I just know that there's a business moving into
Okay.
the village.
Yeah.
Okay, bed and breakfast, we're mirroring the New York State definition. Interestingly, bed and breakfasts are a residential use, they
Right.
must be owner occupied.
Right.
You can call it a bed and breakfast, but it's not a bed and breakfast unless you live there, and it can't be more than 4 rooms.
Okay,
Bicycle shop, we seem to have a couple, we have a new proposed one, and especially now with the e-bikes, we just spent quite a bit of time today looking through next year's fire code. There's a big section on lithium batteries and Pat and Alex and I spent probably a good hour today looking through that code. So gonna be some significant changes about storage of lithium batteries.
Is that a public comment period still open for the state?
I don't know,
updates?
Bill, you were,
Yeah.
you helped Pat
Yeah,
find
I
some
brought
of
it.
this.
Topic of.
Yeah.
E-bike.
Yeah.
Place coming up and the old homes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But I
I
don't.
was Chestnut and, yeah,
Okay.
but those will be covered under building and fire code anyway,
Right.
not zoning, so.
Right, it's a Crestwood Zero place.
yeah, and I did do a training, 'cause we have to do all those trainings because we do the Ulster County Planning Board. Specific to the safety of, they were really talking about larger battery storage,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I think I took
we
that
did that training
training.
together, yeah.
Believe it or not, we didn't have a definition of building permit. Bulk fuel storage, I doubt we're ever gonna have it, but we did define it. Camp, I put in a definition of camp, I don't know, camp can be anything from a day camp. Where people come, participate and leave, to staying overnight. I kind of kept it really generic for the moment, in Rochester and more rural, we had 4 different definitions of camp. Based on the New York State categorization. I assume that you're probably not gonna have sleepover camps in the village, you're probably just gonna have a day camp type thing, so that's kind of where I left it.
Yeah, they just recently had to do something with this, I know, in Rosendale, because of a camp that I have worked with,
Yeah.
was. They realized, oh, they didn't actually have the right
Yeah,
definition.
it's important that you define personal camping, this isn't saying that some kid can't pitch a tent in his backyard and
Right.
sleep out overnight. But you can't use a tent in lieu of a permanent dwelling. And it can only be for recreational purposes, so, yeah. Cargo storage containers, you'll have to let me know how you feel about them. In the old days, they were really kind of nasty looking. The newer ones, the pods, much more slick looking, I know people sometimes rent them for short term if they're moving or if they're, so. I made a definition for them, I made a section treating them as an accessory structure. If some people will use them in place of a storage shed. You guys will have to, this is one I need some feedback from you, whether you think they're okay, whether you want them, whether you don't want them, how they can be used.
I think you need to attach like a time, because you don't,
Yeah.
that, I can see neighbors getting
Yeah.
mad at the
Okay.
neighbor.
Yeah,
But when,
It's like, maybe it's 30 days, 60 days, something, but.
Yeah.
Well, for now, we've defined them. When we get to the accessory use section, we can talk about how to propose it.
Well, I know they're used for building homes now, I mean, so.
They can be.
Those big giant.
They can be, yeah.
Also signs.
Yeah, in Rochester, we had that you couldn't stack them. There are people who will stack them 2 and 3 high and people who run electric to them and try, next thing you know, they become homes.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it is a legitimate way of building a home.
With
but
a,
this is
with a,
not that.
no, with a building permit,
Okay.
yes, yeah. A bunch of definitions here, some involving EV charging, we've added that into the code. Club, you had about 6 different definitions that were all the same thing, so I've narrowed them down into one definition. Good clubs, not-profit clubs, lodges, fraternities. Our commercial districts, I'm nominally calling the B2, the G, and the PB your commercial districts. Would you agree with that, or do you think the PB should be in the residential? PB is where you, PB is basically Woodland Pond. I think of it as commercial. It's
both.
It's both.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
both.
Because it has a medical facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
work there.
Yeah.
Got,
I think because it's got so much of the business aspect involved that.
yeah, they
I
have
would treat,
deserts, they
yeah,
have
yeah.
banks, they have.
The reason I say that is when we get through the what's allowed in what district, I've added some uses in the PB district. Right now, it's a small area, but if the area were ever to grow, it would allow some growth around Woodland Pond, maybe of some businesses that could help service Woodland Pond. Maybe a bank or something along those lines, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
I think you still need to call it housing,
Okay,
Yeah, it's
it's
all,
residential.
okay,
it is literally all of those.
so we'll move PB to residential, you got it. Just put this person in. Community wastewater facilities and community water supply, obviously important in the village. Completed application, very important for the planning board.
I can't believe this wasn't in there.
Yeah, that's.
Well, there's no real definition of it. It's kind of a little muddy, but I followed the seekers, what's a complete application.
Mhm.
Conference center, it could be a facility that has lodging and could also have exhibitions. I mean, again, we don't have a lot of large. This would not be what is proposed currently at the Historic Society, though. I forgot what that's designated, cultural center
Right.
is what that's. Congregate market, that would be like where somebody rents stalls, whether it's antiques, jewelry, arts and crafts kind of thing. Very possible. Convenience market, we didn't have a definition for it. Chances are you're not ever gonna see a gasoline station by itself these days. It will be a convenience market. This is daycare. There's 2 types. There's a home base, the person that has, 3 or 4 kids there. They're registered with the state, but they're doing it out of their home. More of a home-based occupation versus a center-based, 2 very different types of categories.
Mike,
Yes,
just go back to the cultural center.
yep. Cultural center, I left what was there from the current, except I took libraries out because I think they shouldn't be under that category.
It should be their own. Right?
They are now. They're not an entertainment facility. This is museums, galleries, theaters, and performing arts facilities.
Would rehearsal spaces be part of that?
It would be the building inspector's call, depending on how they were using it. I could see possibly, and I could also see, every use, the building inspector has to look at how it's being proposed and then classify it under one of these categories. So, but I think it could be. Dismantling operation, it's defined because we are banning them. we don't want them in the village. Distribution facility, could there be one? I don't know. Small scale, possibly. So it's in there for now. Some of these, I need a little feedback from you guys. If you say, no, village isn't big enough for these, then we take them out. But we leave,
Why would you get rid of it?
you don't have to get rid of it. You just have to decide what districts it's gonna be allowed in. And that's gonna be like the next time
What
we
if it's
meet.
not allowed in any district, like, but you still have the definition?
If you have the definition, it's not allowed in any district, then it's not allowed use. And then you have to decide, are we banning it or are we just not allowing it anywhere?
I mean, I'm just thinking on like the old Robbins warehouse,
Yeah.
RIP.
A warehouse doesn't have to be a big facility.
Yeah, that wasn't a big facility.
Yeah, it could be a very small facility, so.
So,
I mean, I have to be very honest, you don't have a lot of vacant land left in the village, but there's some. But you could get change of uses on some of these properties.
yeah.
Dog park, I put it in because I know a ton of people have been asking for them, but this would not be a public one, this would be a private one.
Yeah, I like that.
If you guys do a public one, that's up to you. The village is exempt from zoning. You don't have to follow your own regulations. You can, but you don't have to. Drive-throughs, whether for a restaurant, whether for a bank, whether for a pharmacy, it's an accessory too.
We allow drive-throughs anyway?
You do, well, you're silent on them. I can think of, there's several places where the Shorties had one previously. The Chase Bank has a drive-through.
The Wells Fargo building, yeah.
Yeah, Wells
that's right,
Fargo,
that's- yeah.
the M&T has one,
All the things,
yeah.
They came back in popularity during COVID too.
Yeah. But this way it's viewed as an accessory to the use when the planning board is looking at it.
Okay.
You had drugstore or pharmaceutical pharmacy, the word pharmaceutical is redundant. Drugstore or pharmacy. Dry cleaner, the why dry cleaners are important is because of potentially the chemicals.
Yeah,
So you want them to be a specific use. Cause you want them,
ones that don't use those chemicals.
yeah. Dwelling, we're now using the state's definition of dwelling.
Are we using our definition of family?
Actually, we've made it even better. We're about to be there very soon. So we have single family, we have two family, multifamily is 3 or more. We also have congregate dwelling, that's where people reside as a family. You have senior dwellings and you have townhouse dwellings. The townhouses you had in your code already, I've just redefined it based on the way the state does. And then you have an accessory dwelling unit, definition. You have a dwelling and then you have a dwelling unit definition. Educational use, public education, we have no control over, so there was no point in having public, just private. Again, a lot of electric vehicle definitions added. Emergency services, that's, medical, ambulance, EMTs, firefighters, police. You guys have all had essential services, water, sewer, phone, 2 different types of things. We're making some provisions for bonuses for green energy, so I've defined it. A lot of these are procedural definitions. Existing building or structure, existing use, expansion of use. Okay, here is the definition of family, and I'll read it to you if you'd like. So, one or more persons occupying a dwelling unit and living together as a traditional family or the functional equivalent of a traditional family. The definition of family shall not be limited by the number of occupants provided the dwelling unit meets applicable building and property maintenance codes, and the occupants do not create a boarding house, rooming house, or transient lodging use. Those are defined within the code as the owner has to be present for a boarding house. The owner has to be present for a transient lodging use. The definition is further intended to include unmarried partners, same-sex, student, and other cohabitation households that function as a single housekeeping unit and are not transient in nature. Nothing in this definition shall be interpreted to limit rights protected under the Federal Fair Housing Act, the New York State Human Rights Law, or other applicable laws. A traditional family shall include individuals related by blood, marriage, domestic partnership, adoption, or legal guardianship. Functional equivalent of traditional family shall mean a group of individuals living together as a single, stable, and permanent housekeeping unit with a demonstrable commitment to the household. It's a combination of 3 different definitions that I pulled all in to make one. We'll let all the attorneys look at it, see what they think. I think we may have gotten there.
Yeah, I really appreciate this being a definition.
Yes.
But you know how much that's come up
Right.
so many times.
Well, I got a lot of feedback from what you guys want a family to be,
did a whole
and,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
so we'll see what they think, but, and I'm sure they'll tweak it a little bit, but it's a combination of 3 different ones. I went out and did a lot of research on case law, on what different communities have been doing. You know, the ones that do just by numbers, that's outdated. The ones that said you had to be related, that's outdated. There's also a lot that maybe weren't challenged, but if they ever were, the general consensus is that they would fail, so. Family type home for adults, that's, you know, a housing that's certified by the Department of Social Services. Farm operation, that is the New York State definition of farm operation. You have to be in a county ag district property to be a farm operation. Otherwise, you're just an agricultural use. Farm stand, I put it in there. It's an accessory use. It doesn't hurt to have it. You get some small person, you know, small farm, not even farm, maybe somebody's doing some backyard gardening and they want to have a little farm stand. It's an accessory use, but we've limited it to 200 square feet. Has to be temporary or a tent, so they can't build a building. This was a big dilemma. Your code had definitions for basement, which is more than half of the walls above grade, cellar, which is half or more below grade, but then you have other places in the code that say first floor and other places that say first story. The question came up is a basement the first floor? And so we got rid of the first floor and we're calling them stories. The basement definition clearly states it is the first story because it's more than half above grade. You could have where you enter and you go down 5 or 6 steps. But because, or it's a walkout, one side.
The walkout
Yeah.
that's built into.
So there was just this, the words didn't line up right.
Yeah, mine is like fully finished. I'm gonna turn it into an ADU. but-
Yeah, and I'll tell you, back in May, the ZBA spent an hour and a half on an interpretation question from the building inspector over just this, and I brought a lot of what their discussion was into this answer. All the flood definitions, furniture and appliance store, you guys had a furniture store. To me, they're kind of the same. If you're selling couches, if you're selling stoves, it's about the same thing. But the reason you want to separate them is you've got larger truck deliveries. You know, you're dealing in larger items. You're not dealing in small scale delivery. When furniture appliances show up, it's not just gonna be a little box truck, it's gonna be either a tractor trailer or a bigger box truck. Believe it or not, you had home gardening as accessory use, we didn't have a definition, we now have a definition. And then I also included, in case you wanted to, a group wanted to start a community garden, you do want that to be covered under zoning.
Yeah.
Greenhouses separate between permanent, temporary, and residential. Green roofs, we've got a number of facilities that have proposed green roofs, but we didn't have a definition, now we do. So here we have healthcare institutions, those are establishments greater than 2,500 square feet. So those are your bigger doctor's offices, maybe diagnostic testing kind of thing, clinics. Why that's important is you want to make sure they have enough parking because they usually have a high turnover of people, customers coming and going. House of worship, we didn't have a good definition. This definition covers the new federal statutes. So an inn is basically the bed and breakfast where the person doesn't live there. It's a you know, about the size of a home, roughly. Similar in size, but you know, they're running a little lodging thing, but they're not, it's not a bed and breakfast.
Do we have times when they're permitted?
Well, it's a new use, so I've added where I think it should be permitted, and you guys will tell me if I'm right or wrong. Invasive species, something we didn't used to think about.
Humans.
Yeah.
Here's your new definition for library, separate from the cultural facilities. Lot, you've got conforming lots, you've got corner lots, you've got improved lots, interior lots, non-conforming lots, through lots, unimproved lots, vacant lots. Then lot area, lot coverage, lot development, throughout the code too, pictures showing examples. The old adage about the picture says 1,000 words, it does. I've redefined all your lot width. So here's the low impact healthcare. Establishment size less than 2,500 square feet and containing 4 or fewer patient examination or treatment rooms, which is primarily engaged in providing licensed diagnosis and treatment services for human health, which may also incidentally offer sales product associated. So like if it's an eye doctor, if they're selling glasses there, they're allowed to do that. Should include doctor, dentist, optometrist, chiropractor, physical therapy, acupuncture, massage, psychiatrist, psychologist, and other similar healthcare practices. Shall not include healthcare facilities where the use is primarily retail sales, such as an eye care center or a pharmacy. So it allows your smaller medical to not be treated the same size as your big practices, but to get the proper review. Then we have a low impact retail. That's your small, they employ, they have maximum of 3 vehicles used in everyday service on behalf of the visit. Yeah, and generate no more than 50 vehicle trips when a business comes to the plane where they have to estimate the traffic that they will get. So this is for the smaller retail places. Then we have low impact service establishments. Those are, you know, potentially a lawyer's office or a travel agent where you're not selling a product, you're selling services. Change the definition. They're no longer called mobile homes, it's manufactured homes. They actually have a definition from the federal housing, home construction safety standards. In past, the village has not allowed them to be used as a dwelling. I think they should be because they come certified that they meet building code. To me, it's a viable option. It's no different than a stick-built home on a piece of land, so.
Yeah, and the history, if you obsessively look back through minutes in time, like,
Yeah. They're very different now than they were.
well, and then also like the history of like the argument of banning,
Yeah.
yeah, or not including, yeah.
Classes.
Yeah, it was just
And it definitely
some
was classes.
classic,
Yeah.
classist moments in New York history, looking back at that, yeah.
Light manufacturing, I could see that happening in the village, small manufacturing center. Mining is in here only because with excavating of, that is considered mining. So we're following the DEC's definition for mining. Here's the mobile home. So mobile homes are prior to 1976. You won't find many still in existence from, that's almost 50 years ago.
Yeah,
The majority of those are gone. Modular home, same thing as a manufactured home for the most part. Although the modular, they'll come in 2 or more pieces and put them together.
yeah,
And you really can't tell the difference. I owned one at one time and I couldn't tell you, you would not know it was a modular. As you asked at the last meeting, found a more modern definition for motel. All the new changes that we made are in that purple color. Multiple permitted uses will allow multiple uses provided you have the appropriate density and size. The green is carryovers from other codes that I brought into the zoning code. That's all your natural gas and your fracking stuff. Nursery school, we've replaced with daycare facility. Offices, you've had general offices, you had professional offices. I don't really know the difference. So they're all categorized just now as offices. I'm not really sure what the difference was.
Wear a necktie.
Outdoor display and outdoor lighting, very important. There's an outdoor storage. These are all accessory uses, but important to be considered by the planning board.
oh, and the sign lighting part was what I was thinking last meeting, that's come up from environmental
Yep.
groups about like dark
So
sky.
it's included in 2 places. It's included in the sign section and it's also included in the lighting section.
Great.
Yeah, exactly, so
Dark sky
that's
has to be-
addressed,
Yeah.
Just like we always talk about the county one, yeah.
yeah.
Just went through the various types of plans, sketch plan, preliminary plan, final plan. Those are the 3 stages that a review would go through potentially. Portable storage container, that's your cargo.
Mike, could you
Yep,
go back to the plug-in hybrid?
yes.
You want to include anything about, these vehicles acting as backup generators?
Hmm,
Cause you can do them with Fords, you can do them with Tesla.
I've never thought about that. I don't know if we need to, only because that's optional, but is that a fire code concern?
I don't know, just something that crossed my mind when.
It does seem like a use, yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you making the distinction plug-in hybrid versus just a electric vehicle?
Only because, the code that I modeled it after had all these and I more or less
So you have EV
copied
somewhere
theirs.
else?
What's that?
You have EV somewhere else?
Yeah, yeah, back in the E's, there's all the electric vehicle stuff, but this became in the P's because it's plug-in hybrid.
Sure.
I guess I could move it to electric vehicle, comma, plug-in hybrid. Why don't I do that?
Yeah. That would be
See
good.
if there's any.
I mean, it's definitely a real category, but
Yeah, I mean, it's treated as an accessory, but I'll move it to, so they're all in the same section under electric vehicle, under EV. I think there's one other one too that's kind of stray. I'll get them all in the same place.
Would there make sense to have a definition of generator?
I don't know, cause that's more code. That's not really use of property. It's not really zoning. It's an operational thing. Yeah.
Okay.
pre-application conference, we've been getting more and more requests where people want to come in and we just asked them to pay a nominal fee to pay for the attorney's time. But they've been successful because it saves them time and money and saves the planning board time. We've got public buildings, public parks, recording studio, which doesn't have to be audio. It could be film, it could be video, it could be editing, it could be broadcasting. I could see potentially that happening. Recreation uses, for some reason, theaters, performing arts centers were under recreation. They're not recreation.
So with the recreational sport courts, there was also a court section.
So the recreational sport courts are more for like a residential use, you know, if somebody wants their own, it came up because we had a
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
basketball court.
yes, come on, definitely.
Yeah, but you could get, there could also be a large scale one too,
Yeah.
that's
so-
private. So they
so
would
is the
fall into the
court
same thing.
Section different though than this?
Court?
Yeah, there still is a definition that's just court and it's like an open and it's like a weird,
There is?
yeah, up to see.
Probably part of your theme park research.
No, because that's part of,
Oh, yeah, oh, this is a different type of court. This is any open unoccupied bounded by 3 or more building walls. That's like, yeah,
right, okay, cool.
yeah,
Thank you.
different, that's an architectural definition, not a sport court.
I
But
see
thank-
court and I'm like,
Yeah, no.
what can I play in it?
Got
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry, I lost my spot.
It's all right.
It's okay, it's okay. Thank goodness for touchscreens.
Love it.
Swimming pools, believe it or not, and they are regulated by building code if they're more than 24 inches. We've defined what a tenant is. We defined the word transient in the short-term rental section. We added the word transient because that's part of the state.
So what's transient, less than 30?
I'll go back to when we get there. I think it was we either did more than, I think we did less, we might have done 29 days or less.
Yep.
I think is how we worded it. I brought in your short-term rental section that was already, I'd made very minor changes to it. Veterinary office. Village engineer, village law, village road specifications, warehouse facility. Wholesale uses. Yards, I've updated the definitions to front yard, rear yard, side yard. What that really means is setback. I know people think from everything from their front door to the street is their front yard. In zoning, it's just the setback is your yard. The rest you can call it whatever you want. But zoning determination, that's where the building inspector reviews the original and then determines what permits are needed. So that's, and you guys tell me if you want, if you've had enough or if you want to go a little bit more. It's 8:45.
Yeah,
I'm good for tonight.
I just wanna, bring up real quick because I started digging into this. So years ago, I had tried to pitch, you guys might remember the EV charging for new multi-use things, like to make it so like, you know, tenants can have EV charging capabilities. So I like how these proposed edits kind of just throw in a way more like straightforward thing on page 192. So definitely want to just put it out there for everyone to take a look for like next time, because I think it's pretty solid and takes what I tried to complicate and just simplifies it so beautifully.
Actually, I could cover the zoning districts probably in 5 minutes if you want to go through one more. So we removed, at the last meeting, we removed the R1 zoning district. It will be no more. You had the B1 still in your list, it doesn't exist anymore. I'm proposing that the floodplain district be removed and you're gonna replace it with an overlay. We have the historic district and I took a definition from their code. What I do need is some help on is a definition for what the professional and limited business, that's the PB. That's the only one we don't have a definition of what it is. And then the properties that the village owns, for lack of a better term, and I'm open to change it to whatever you want, but because they're mostly unoccupied along the Wallkill, I listed them as agricultural. Originally, I proposed them as village community services, but Tim brought up the fact that if we sell it, it should be zoned something else.
I think it should just be zoned whatever it's contiguous.
Well, that's the thing, they're all contiguous to each other and they're not really contiguous to anything else.
Oh,
And there are, a lot of them are in the flood zone. Well, that's part of them. There's about a half a dozen properties. The one where the sewer plant is, the one, you know, so you don't want to zone those residential. They were all in the F zone previously.
They're parks.
That's why I was saying village and community services originally, but I get what you're
What
saying.
was the weird triangle zoned as?
That one was zoned as what the neighbors had.
Yeah.
So that was R3.
I think it's R2. I
I thought
think,
church is all R3.
I don't know, I'll have to look. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, give it some thought. I'm not really sold on the agricultural one either, but
That might be also just confusing.
yeah, well, it's all areas that could be used agriculturally
Yeah.
because most of it's in the floodplain, there's not much else you can use it for anyway.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
I would consider it park.
So park has its own definition though, like,
but we could call it the park zone.
it could be the park zone.
Yes.
Cause that makes sense, because I'm worried about.
And then we
agricultural
would say
people
that area,
Yes.
we could say that area is not conducive to permanent dwellings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
But if
will,
you call it park, then you can't use it for like the utility.
you can use it for whatever you want if you're government.
They might,
It's a wetland for.
well, if it's a wetland, but I'm saying if it's a park.
Yeah, most of
what
it is
would be
not
considered
wetlands.
park
Yeah.
land? Is there a risk that it?
Why don't you give it a meeting to think about it?
Yeah,
Somebody will come up with a brainstorm that will all go, that's
Call it
perfect.
miscellaneous.
Yeah, I don't think the zoning, they're gonna go with that. It's the miscellaneous district. We could call it the, we don't know what to call it district. I like that. We just call it the M3 and we don't have to say what the M is for.
yeah, exactly.
So we are gonna create the FD overlay, which will mirror whatever the FEMA flood zone is at that moment, knowing it's fluctuating.
Right.
The zoning map, there's a whole section in the zoning map that I'll have to find out from Will why that language is in there. It's probably from the original zoning map. It may not need to be in there anymore. And then there's a section on the interpretation of boundaries, in case there's a question. So why don't we stop there with use standards? And I'll pick up next meeting. I won't be able to be here the October 8th meeting to, your first meeting in October, because county planning board is meeting that night because of, Rosh Hashanah being, or Yom Kippur, sorry, on October 1st. So I think we should get this wrapped up in 2 more meetings if possible by the end of October. And then, so if we want to get this adopted before the end of the year, I know it's ambitious. So,
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And, it was,
Yeah, this is really fun.
yeah. And if you've got questions, I don't have to go through every section, but I want, and when we go through, again, there's some sections where there's no changes, so.
Yeah.
Go over them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move, the resolution for bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor? Want to do a planning board liaison update?
Just very quickly, last meeting, 13 Water Street. Resolution is being prepared for approval, and from a single family theme, 3-bedroom dwelling to be utilized by the neighboring hotel, employee housing in Chuck County. So that was approved. And also, sort of property on North Chestnut. Mike, can you remind me where that finished up?
The 85,
Yeah,
we're still waiting to get answers from, sorry, let me stop sharing here. We're still waiting to get answers from, the applicant, so
right.
that's where we are.
Okay, the other report would be the historic HPC met on Monday, and as you, some of you know, it was another well-attended, meeting. This was to discuss, the proposed historic Huguenot, proposed, visitor center, and, the historic Huguenot presented their case, the audience was very favorable in terms of what the entity does and delivers to the community. However, a lot of questions concerning the look of the building, the size of the building, the location of the building, how large the parking lot will be. So I think that they'll be coming back with a revised proposal, but it was good to see that much engagement.
Yeah,
this meeting.
it was really good.
It reminded me of the early days of when, Safe Place was being examined. It was
Mhm.
a very, understanding, yet, people very calm about presenting them.
I thought it was a great meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, that's the whole thing, Tim and I.
And that's the two things, not much from beyond.
Any ZBA news?
They had their first meeting last night in 3 months. They have one application for a shed that meets building code, but the gentleman wants to put it in between his house and the street. So it
What
requires,
street?
Plains Road, requires an area variance. He brought the photos, his neighbor has a shed in between their house and he showed us pictures.
Oh, man.
Yeah. In terms of consistency, it's, you know, the other one predates zoning, of course, so. He came very well prepared, he'd done all his homework. He staked it all out for us.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
Anything else from our board?
Not tonight.